Before you find yourself in a cage, you never think it could happen to you. You see yourself as strong, independent, a person with your own mind. Cages are for other people. What you don't realize is that the most effective cages aren't built of iron bars. They're built of love. They're constructed slowly, piece by piece, with gestures of care and words of devotion. Each bar is disguised as a loving arm, each lock as a protective embrace. You don't even feel the walls going up around you. You just wake up one day and realize you haven't seen the sun in years, and you've forgotten the sound of your own voice. Before I met Alex, my life was beautifully, happily my own. I had a small apartment that I'd painted myself, a job in arts administration that I loved, and a tight-knit circle of friends who were my chosen family. My life was a collage of late-night talks, spontaneous weekend trips, and the quiet satisfaction of paying my own bills. I was self-sufficient. I was free. Alex entered my life like a force of nature. He was a successful investment banker, handsome, charismatic, and exuding a powerful confidence that was intoxicating. He pursued me with a single-minded focus that felt less like dating and more like a grand romantic campaign. He didn't just plan dates. He curated experiences. He didn't just bring me flowers. He brought me rare orchids he'd had sourced from a specialty grower. He made all the decisions, from which restaurant we went to which wine we ordered. "Don't you worry about a thing," he would say, taking my hand. "My only job is to take care of you." In the beginning, it felt like a luxury. To a woman who was used to juggling a dozen responsibilities at once, his decisiveness felt like a relief. His constant attention felt like adoration. He wanted to know everything about my day. He'd text me every hour. If I didn't respond right away, he'd call, his voice full of mock panic. "I was just so worried something had happened to you," he'd say. It seemed so loving, so caring. The first bar of the cage was laid about 6 months in. He suggested we get a joint bank account. "It's just easier, Liv," he said, kissing my forehead. "All our shared expenses, rent, groceries, date scan, come from one place. It's what serious couples do. It's a sign of our partnership." It made sense. It felt mature. So I agreed. A few months later, he sat me down for a serious talk. He told me he was worried about me. He said my job was too stressful for too little pay. "You come home so tired every night," he said, his voice laced with concern. "I see how it drains you. I make more than enough for both of us. Why don't you quit? You can take some time for yourself. Just relax. Let me take care of you. You deserve to be cherished, not stressed." He framed it as a gift, the ultimate act of love. He was offering me a life without worry, a life of leisure. My friends were wary. "Are you sure about this, Liv?" My sister asked me over the phone. "Your job is a part of you." But Alex had an answer for everything. He convinced me that my identity wasn't my job. It was being his partner. So, I quit. I walked away from a career I enjoyed, convincing myself I was stepping into a life of ease. In reality, I had just handed him the key to my financial independence. At first, it was fine. He transferred a generous allowance into my personal account each month. But soon, he began to question my spending. "Another new dress. Babe, you have so many beautiful clothes already. Did you really need to spend that much on lunch with Jenna?" It was subtle at first, just comments. Then, he suggested I close my personal account to simplify things. All the money was now in the joint account he, and only he, had full administrative access to. I went from having an allowance to having to ask for money. Every single purchase, from a coffee to a birthday gift for my mom, required his approval. I once spent $20 on a new book, and he sat me down for a half-hour lecture on our financial goals and my frivolous spending. The humiliation was a physical ache. With my financial freedom gone, he started on my social life. My friends, who had once been my bedrock, became threats. Every time I had plans with them, a fight would mysteriously erupt right before I was supposed to leave. Alex would get a sudden migraine, or accuse me of not caring about his stressful day, or pick a fight about something trivial. He'd get so upset, his voice so full of pain and disappointment, that I would end up canceling my plans to stay home and comfort him. After a while, it was just easier not to make plans at all. My friends started to drift away, tired of my constant cancellations. My world, once so full of people, had shrunk to a population of one. Alex. My appearance became his next project. It started with compliments. "I love you in blue, Liv. It brings out your eyes." Soon the compliments became directives. "I don't really like that dress on you. It doesn't do you justice." It escalated until he was vetting my outfits before we left the house. "That skirt is a little short, don't you think? I just don't want other guys getting the wrong idea. It's about respecting our relationship." I found myself dressing only for him, choosing colors and styles he approved of. My own taste fading into a distant memory. His control over information was absolute. He needed to know my whereabouts at all times, for my safety. He would call me multiple times if I was out running errands, asking for updates. Then came the openness policy. He said a healthy relationship had no secrets, so we should share our phone passcodes and email passwords. But it was a one-way street. He would frequently go through my phone, questioning me about a text from my sister or an email from an old colleague. If I ever touched his phone, however, he would fly into a rage about privacy and trust. My life became an endless, quiet loop. I would wake up, clean the apartment to his exacting standards, plan a dinner he would approve of, and wait for him to come home. I had no money of my own, no friends I saw regularly, no hobbies, no job. My entire existence was a reflection of his needs and his desires. I was a ghost in my own life, and the cage was now so complete, so seamless, that I couldn't even see the bars anymore. It just felt like reality. The moment of clarity, the event that finally shattered the glass of my prison, was something small and devastating. My sister's daughter, my little niece, was in a school play. I was so excited to go. I had it marked on my calendar for weeks. The day of the play, Alex announced he had planned a surprise romantic dinner for us at home. "Oh," I said, my heart sinking. "But Maya's play is tonight. I told you about it." "Did you?" he asked, his face a mask of innocence. "I don't remember that." "Well, that's a shame. I've already bought the steaks and a very expensive bottle of wine. It would be a waste to cancel. I guess you'll have to miss the play. Family dinners are important for us." I begged him. I pleaded. I told him how much it meant to me. His face hardened. "You're being hysterical, Olivia," he said, his voice dropping to that cold, flat tone that always terrified me. "You're choosing your sister's drama over me, over us. After everything I do for you, this is the thanks I get." The argument escalated until he did something he'd never done before. He walked over to the hook by the door, took my car keys, and slipped them into his pocket. "I think you're too emotional to drive right now," he said calmly. "We'll just stay in tonight. It's for the best." And in that moment, as I stared at the empty hook where my keys used to be, I finally saw it all. This wasn't love. This wasn't care. This wasn't protection. This was possession. I was his property, and he had just calmly, coolly, locked me in. I was a prisoner in my own home, and for the first time, I felt a surge, not of sadness, but of pure, unadulterated terror. I knew I had to get out. But how do you escape a prison when the warden shares your bed and controls your every move? The terror gave way to a cold, calculated calm. I spent the next month plotting my escape like a prisoner of war. I had no money, no car, no allies he hadn't driven away. My first step was secretly stashing money. When he gave me cash for groceries, I would buy cheaper brands and pocket the difference. $1 here, $5 there. I hid the crumpled bills inside the lining of an old winter coat in the back of the closet. It took me a month to save $200. It felt like a fortune. My second step was re-establishing contact. I used the computer at the public library to create a secret email account. I wrote to my sister. I told her everything. The control, The isolation. The keys. I told her I was scared and I needed help. Her reply came within the hour. I knew it. I'm on my way. Tell me what you need. The plan we hatched was simple. The following week, Alex had an all-day golf tournament with his firm. That was my window. My sister would drive into the city and wait for me at a coffee shop, 2 miles from our apartment. The morning of my escape, I felt a strange and terrifying calm. I made him breakfast. I kissed him goodbye. He reminded me to have the house clean for guests they were having the next day. The moment his car left the garage, I moved. I didn't pack a suitcase that would take too long. I grabbed my winter coat with the hidden money, my purse, and the small box of my mother's jewelry he had let me keep. I walked out of that apartment with nothing but the clothes on my back and $187. I didn't run. I walked 2 miles to the coffee shop, forcing myself to keep a normal pace, my heart hammering against my ribs with every step. I expected to see his car around every corner. When I saw my sister's face through the window of the cafe, I almost collapsed with relief. We drove for 2 hours straight, back to the small town where I grew up. I didn't speak a word the entire time. I just watched the city skyline, the monument to my prison, shrink in the rearview mirror until it was gone. The aftermath was brutal. He called my sister's phone 100 times that first night. He left messages that swung wildly from desperate pleas, "I can't live without you. Live, I'll change." 2 chilling threats, "You have no idea what you've just done." With the help of a legal aid society, I filed a restraining order. The process was humiliating, having to detail the slow erosion of my life to a stranger. Starting over at 33 with nothing is a humbling experience. I lived in my sister's spare room. I got a job as a waitress at a local diner. The first time I received a paycheck, a small piece of paper with my name on it, I sat in my car and cried for 10 minutes. The money was barely enough to cover gas, but it was mine. I had earned it. I could spend it on whatever I wanted without asking for permission. It was the most beautiful feeling in the world. It's been 3 years. I have my own small apartment again. It's not as fancy as the one I shared with Alex, but every single thing in it is mine, chosen by me. I started taking pottery classes at the local community center. The feeling of shaping the clay with my own hands, of creating something from nothing, feels like a metaphor for my own life. I'm still waitressing, but I'm also taking online classes, slowly rebuilding the career I left behind. I don't know if I'll ever be in another relationship. The idea of trusting someone that completely feels foreign. But I'm not lonely. I've reconnected with my friends and my family. My life is small, and it is quiet, but it is gloriously, breathtakingly my own. Sometimes, a customer at the diner will be indecisive, and will look at their partner and say, "Oh, you decide for me." It's an innocent, common little phrase. But every time I hear it, I feel a chill, and I feel a surge of gratitude. Because today, I will decide what I have for lunch. I will decide what I wear. I will decide who I talk to. I will decide everything. And I will never, ever, take the beautiful, simple power of that choice for granted again. The first year of my new life was about survival. The second and third were about rebuilding. But the fourth and fifth year, they were about learning to live again. The terror that had been my constant companion after leaving Alex finally receded. Like a tide going out, leaving behind the hard-packed sand of resilience. I finished my paralegal certification. The diner apron was replaced with a blazer. I moved out of my sister's spare room and into a small but sunny apartment that was all mine. I had friends. I had a life. The ghost of Alex still visited sometimes. A fleeting panic when I saw a car that looked like his. A flinch when a man's voice was raised in a restaurant. But these were echoes, not a haunting. I was no longer a victim. I was a woman who had survived a shipwreck and had painstakingly built her own island, and I was content to live on it, safe and alone. I wasn't looking for anyone. The idea of letting someone into my life that intimately, of intertwining my schedule and my space and my heart with another person's, felt impossible. Trust wasn't just broken, the very concept felt foreign. So when Liam asked me out, My immediate, instinctual response was no. I met him through my sister. He was a friend of her husband's, a high school history teacher with kind eyes, and a laugh that was gentle, not possessive. He didn't pursue me with the intense, overwhelming force Alex had. He just asked, simply, I know you're not really dating, but I really enjoy talking to you. Would you be willing to get a coffee sometime? No pressure. It was the no pressure that got me. For the first time in years, a man had given me an easy out, had acknowledged my autonomy from the very first sentence. I cautiously, terrifyingly, said yes. Dating Liam was like learning a new language. I had been programmed for years to see love as a form of control, and my system was constantly short-circuiting. When he'd text me in the morning to say, have a great day, a part of my brain would scream, he's checking on you. When he'd offer to pay for dinner, I'd feel a jolt of panic, thinking, he's creating a debt. When he'd ask what my plans were for the weekend, my muscles would tense in preparation for a fight, before I realized he was just making conversation. He was my polar opposite to Alex. He was patient. He never made decisions for me. Instead, he'd ask, what do you feel like doing? He didn't just tolerate my independence. He actively celebrated it. One evening, I was telling him about a difficult legal brief I had helped draft at work. I was proud of it. Alex would have feigned interest for a moment before turning the conversation back to himself. Liam just listened, and when I was done, he said, you're so brilliant, Liv. It's amazing to see you so passionate about what you do. He saw my strength not as a threat, but as a feature. Slowly, painstakingly, I began to unlearn the lessons of my prison. I learned that a text could just be a text, that a kind gesture wasn't a down payment on my obedience. I was learning that healthy love, real love, felt like sunshine, not a spotlight. For the first time in almost a decade, I felt safe with a man. I was starting to believe that a future with someone else was possible. And that was when the ghost came back. It had been 6 years since I'd left. The restraining order had long since expired. I was at home, scrolling through my emails, when I saw one from an unknown address. The subject line was just my name, Olivia. My heart stopped. I knew, with a certainty that turned my blood to ice, who it was from. I should have deleted it. I should have blocked the sender and never looked back. But I opened it. The message was short, and its apparent sincerity was more chilling than any threat. Olivia, I know I have no right to contact you. I know this email is a violation of the peace you deserve, but I couldn't live with myself any longer without trying to say this. I've been in intensive therapy for the last 5 years. I was a sick man when I was with you. A narcissist with deep-seated control issues. What I did to you wasn't love. It was abuse. It was a crime. There is not a day that goes by that I am not haunted by the pain I caused you. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that I know the truth now. I am so sorry, Alex. I read it once, then twice, then a third time. My hands were shaking. It was everything I had once thought I wanted to hear. It was an admission of guilt, a validation of my reality. But it didn't feel validating. It felt invasive. It felt like a strategic insertion of himself back into my life, under the guise of a perfect therapy-approved apology. He wasn't trying to control my movements anymore. He was trying to control my memory of him. I showed the email to my sister. Delete it, she said instantly. It's just another form of control. He's trying to get in your head. I knew she was right. So I blocked the address and tried to forget about it. But the damage was done. He was no longer a phantom of the past. He was a real person with a keyboard, and he knew how to find me. The biggest question was, should I tell Liam? We were 6 months in. Things were becoming serious. But my past with Alex felt like a toxic secret, a contamination I was terrified to bring into the clean, safe space I was building with this kind, good man. I was afraid he would see me as damaged goods, as someone with baggage too heavy to carry, so I said nothing. And the weight of that secret, my first secret with Liam, felt like a betrayal of the very trust we were trying to build. A month later, another message came. This time a request on a social media platform I rarely used. It was from Alex. I found this article on coercive control. It was like reading my own biography. I'm learning so much. I hope you are healing. Another followed on my birthday. I'm not going to wish you a happy birthday because I know I have no right. I just want you to know I am hoping, wherever you are, that you are happy. It was psychological warfare disguised as enlightenment. He was positioning himself as a reformed, sensitive man, and in doing so, he was positioning me as the cold, unforgiving woman who wouldn't accept his heartfelt apology. The old fear crept back in, the fear of being seen as the hysterical or unreasonable one. It started to affect my relationship with Liam. I became distant, jumpy. He noticed, of course. One night, he sat me down. "Liv," he said gently, "I feel like you're pulling away from me. If there's something wrong, you can tell me. You're safe with me." And looking at his honest, patient face, I knew I couldn't keep the secret any longer. Keeping secrets was Alex's world, not mine. So I took a deep breath, and I told him everything, the whole story, from the charming beginning to the terrifying end. And then I told him about the emails. He didn't flinch. He didn't look at me with pity. He just listened. When I was finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he took my hand. "Thank you for telling me," he said, his voice firm. "First, I am in awe of your strength. You're a survivor, Olivia. Second, you are not damaged, and this is not your baggage to carry alone. It's ours now. And third, we are going to handle this asshole together." The relief that washed over me was so immense, I started to cry. It was the first time in my life that a man had seen my trauma not as a burden, but as a part of my strength. It was the first time I hadn't been alone in the fight. Alex, emboldened by my silence, escalated. A bouquet of my favorite orchids, the ones he used to buy, arrived at my office. The card read, "I will never stop being sorry." It was a horrifying violation. He knew where I worked. A few days later, I was leaving a coffee shop near my apartment, and I saw him. He was standing across the street, just watching me. He didn't approach. He just stood there, letting me know he could find me whenever he wanted. That night, with Liam by my side, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't live in fear. I couldn't let him have this power over me. I sent Alex one final message from a new, anonymous email address. "Meet me at the Central Park fountain tomorrow at noon. Come alone. This will be the last time we ever communicate." Liam was terrified for me, but I was resolute. "I'm not the same woman he knew," I told him. "He needs to see that." I went to the park. Liam was there, sitting on a bench 100 feet away, pretending to read a book. I saw Alex approach the fountain. He looked older, thinner. He tried to smile when he saw me, a weak imitation of his old charm. "Liv," he said, "thank you for coming. You look amazing." "I'm not here to talk about the past, Alex," I said, my voice steady and cold. "I'm not here for your apologies, and I'm not here to give you forgiveness. Forgiveness is something I give to myself, for ever believing you. I am here to deliver a message. My life is my own now. It is peaceful, it is happy, and you are not welcome in it. This is not a request. It is a statement of fact. If you ever contact me, my friends, or my family again, if I ever see you across the street from my home or my work again, we will not file a restraining order. We will file a police report for stalking and harassment. There will be no more chances. This conversation is the last communication you will ever have with me. Do you understand?" I watched as the reality of my words landed. He was seeing a stranger, a woman who was not scared, not emotional, not controllable, a woman who was powerful. He just nodded, speechless. I turned and walked away without looking back. I walked over to the bench where Liam was sitting. He stood up, wrapped his arm around me, and we walked out of the park together. That was the last time I ever saw or heard from Alex. His power was built on my fear and my silence, and I had taken both away from him. A few months later, Liam and I moved into a new apartment together. Packing up my little island of survival and merging it with his felt different this time. It wasn't an erasure, it was an expansion. I had learned that true partnership isn't about giving up your freedom. It's about finding someone who will stand guard over it with you. My life is no longer a quiet, solitary affair. It's full of love, and laughter, and the beautiful, easy comfort of a man who asks for my opinion on dinner. And every time he does, every time I make a choice, big or small, I feel a quiet surge of victory. I survived the cage, but more than that, I learned that the only love worth having is the one that doesn't just let you be free, but fiercely, joyfully, protects that freedom alongside you.